Have you ever caught yourself saying something and instantly regretted it? Maybe it was a phrase like, "I already know that," or "That's just how I am." Simple words, but beneath them lies something dangerous, a fixed mindset, a wall that keeps you from growing. The truth is, the words we speak reveal the way we think. They shape our mindset, our relationships, even our destiny. And for a man striving to become wiser, stronger, and more grounded, certain phrases can quietly destroy that progress. You see, intelligent men, the truly wise ones, speak differently, not because they're perfect, but because they've learned to observe themselves before they speak. They understand that every word carries energy. It can either build them up or lock them inside their own limitations. The Stoics knew this thousands of years ago. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." In other words, what you choose to say and what you choose not to say reveals the kind of man you are becoming. So, in this video, we'll explore 7 phrases that wise men avoid. Words that quietly weaken your character, close your mind, and limit your growth. Each one might sound harmless, but when you understand the psychology and philosophy behind them, you'll see why avoiding these words could change your entire life. This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. Because once you see the patterns in your speech, you'll start to notice the patterns in your mind. And that S when real transformation begins. So stay until the end, because I promise, by the time you finish this video, you'll never speak or think the same way again. Let's begin. 1. I already know that. Have you ever caught yourself saying, "Yeah, I already know that," maybe to a friend, a coworker, or even a mentor? It sounds harmless, right? But behind that simple phrase hides one of the most dangerous traps for any man who seeks growth: the illusion of knowledge. When you say, "I already know that," what you're really saying is, "I have nothing left to learn." And that mindset is where growth dies. I remember years ago sitting across from someone who had far more experience than me. He was sharing lessons he'd learned through years of hard work, failure, and perseverance. And halfway through his story, I interrupted. "Yeah, I know that." I still remember the silence that followed. He just smiled politely, nodded, and changed the subject. Only later did I realize I hadn't just interrupted a story. I had shut the door on wisdom. That man had lived what I was only beginning to understand, and I had silenced the opportunity to learn from it. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You cannot learn what you think you already know." Those words cut deep because they reveal a painful truth. Arrogance blinds us. The moment we believe we've arrived, we stop moving forward. See, intelligent men don't chase the image of being smart. They chase understanding. They know that wisdom isn't a trophy you hold up. It's a river that never stops flowing. Every new idea, every conversation, every failure, it all becomes water that keeps that river alive. A closed mind is like a stagnant pond, calm on the surface but dead underneath. But an open mind, humble and curious, stays alive, always renewed. And here's what's powerful. The truly wise don't feel threatened by new ideas. They don't need to prove how much they know. Instead, they listen, really listen, because they understand that even one sentence, one new angle can shift their entire perspective. So, the next time someone shares something you think you already know, pause. Listen again, because maybe this time, you'll hear it differently. Maybe you'll catch something you missed before. A detail, a truth, a lesson you weren't ready to understand the first time. That's what Stoic humility looks like. It's not weakness. It's power under control. It's the ability to say, "I'm still learning," and mean it. Remember, a man who claims to know everything has already stopped growing. But a man who listens, even when he has heard it before, will keep evolving for the rest of his life. 2. That's impossible. How many times have you heard someone say, "That's impossible"? Maybe you've said it yourself, quietly, under your breath, when faced with something that scared you. The truth is, those 2 words, "That's impossible," have crushed more dreams, killed more potential, and silenced more courage than failure ever has. Because when a man says, "That's impossible," what he's really saying is, "I'm afraid." Afraid to try, afraid to fail, afraid to face the unknown. And that fear doesn't come from the world outside. It comes from within. It's not the obstacle that limits you. It's your perception of it. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about that. Most of the time, it is not life that holds us back. It is the stories we tell ourselves about how hard it will be. I once knew a man named Robert, a brilliant leader, sharp, confident, admired by many. But every time a new idea came up, his first response was always the same. "That's impossible." He didn't realize that the wall standing between him and greatness wasn't the challenge itself. It was his own mindset. Because once you believe something can't be done, your brain stops looking for ways to do it. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that obstacles are not the enemy. Our attitude toward them is. Marcus Aurelius, a man who led an empire through chaos, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Those words hold the key. You don't have to control everything. You just need to control your response. So instead of saying, "That's impossible," ask yourself, "What can I control right now? What's the next small step I can take today?" Maybe you can't climb the whole mountain yet, but you can take one step. And that step, taken every day, builds the strength that turns the impossible into inevitable. The intelligent man doesn't see limitations. He sees possibilities disguised as challenges. He knows that what seems impossible today might just be something he hasn't learned how to do yet. So the next time your mind whispers, "That's impossible," pause for a moment. Remind yourself, it's not impossible. It's just unfamiliar. And the only way to make it possible is to begin. Because in the end, every great achievement, every invention, every breakthrough, every story of success began with someone who refused to believe in impossible. 3. That's not my fault. How often have you heard someone say, "That's not my fault"? Maybe you've said it yourself after something went wrong at work, in a relationship, or in life. It's a phrase that feels safe, comforting even. Because when you say it, you're telling yourself, "I'm not to blame, I'm not the problem." But here's the truth. Every time you say, "That's not my fault," you hand over your power. You give away the ability to change, to grow, to take control of your own life. I once knew a man named Michael, smart, ambitious, full of potential. He was leading a small business team, and when they lost a major client, his first reaction was, "It's not my fault, the market's bad. My team wasn't performing." But as months passed, he kept losing clients, and he kept saying the same thing. He never stopped to ask, "What could I have done differently?" And that was his biggest mistake. Because the moment you start blaming others, you stop improving yourself. You build walls instead of bridges, and those walls keep you stuck in the same place. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That single line contains a lifetime of wisdom. You can't control the economy, people's opinions, or every outcome, but you can always control your response. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means owning your part, even if it's small, because that's where your strength begins. It's saying, "I may not have caused this, but I can choose how I deal with it." Think about it. Every great man you admire, every true leader shares one thing in common. They take responsibility. When things fall apart, they don't point fingers. They ask, "What can I do now?" And that simple question separates the weak from the strong. Blame feels good for a moment, but it keeps you powerless. Responsibility feels heavy at first, but it builds inner strength. It gives you back control. Because when you own your choices, you own your future. So the next time you're tempted to say, "That's not my fault," stop yourself. Pause. Ask, "What part of this can I influence? What can I learn here?" An intelligent man understands, Blame gives power away. Responsibility brings it back. Life will always test you. But when you stop pointing outward and start looking inward, that's the moment you step into real strength, real maturity, and real freedom. They don't need any help. There is a phrase many men love to say, "I don't need any help." It sounds strong, independent, confident, but most of the time, it's not strength speaking, it's pride. From a young age, many of us are taught to handle it ourselves, to man up, to never show weakness. We grow up thinking that asking for help somehow makes us less capable, less masculine, less in control. But that mindset doesn't make us stronger, it makes us smaller. Because the truth is, no man has ever achieved greatness alone. Think about Abraham Lincoln. In one of the most divided times in American history, a civil war tearing the nation apart, Lincoln surrounded himself with people who disagreed with him. He invited critics, rivals, and skeptics into his circle. Why? Because he understood that wisdom grows from listening, not isolating. Even in power, he stayed humble enough to say, "I need your perspective." That's real strength. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and emperors, did the same. In his meditations, he often expressed gratitude for his teachers, mentors, and friends. He didn't see their guidance as a threat to his authority, but as part of his strength. He knew that collaboration sharpens wisdom, that every man is a student no matter how high he climbs. But in our world today, the lone wolf mindset still dominates. We glorify doing it all ourselves. We hide our struggles, suffer in silence, and call it independence. Yet that kind of pride only builds walls, walls that keep out not just pain, but also growth, wisdom, and connection. Here's what the Stoics would tell you. Asking for help is not weakness, it's honesty. It's the courage to admit, I don't know everything. I can't do everything, but I'm willing to learn. And there's something even more powerful. When you allow others to help you, you give them the gift of purpose. You give them the chance to contribute, to feel useful, to grow alongside you. Refusing help doesn't just limit you, it limits them. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, I don't need help, pause. Ask yourself, is that strength talking or is that ego? Because true strength isn't in pretending to have it all figured out. It's in standing tall enough to say, I can't do this alone, and that's okay. The intelligent man knows that self-reliance is valuable, but shared wisdom, that's what turns good men into great ones. But I'm too old for that. There's a quiet, dangerous phrase that steals more dreams than failure ever could. I'm too old for that. It sounds harmless, it sounds reasonable, but underneath it's a quiet surrender. The moment a man stops reaching for what still makes his soul come alive. The truth is, age isn't what limits us. It's the story we tell ourselves about what age means. I once read about a man named Harry Bernstein. For most of his life, Harry lived in obscurity, working ordinary jobs, raising a family, watching decades pass by. But at the age of 93, when most people believe life is over, he sat down and started writing his very first book. He finished it at 96. It became a worldwide success. Then, instead of stopping, he went on to write 3 more books before he passed away at 101. When asked why he started so late, he said, "Because only then did I finally have something worth saying." That story changed the way I think about age forever. You see, the Stoics never saw aging as decline. They saw it as refinement, the sharpening of the soul through time and experience. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Death is inevitable, but as long as you live, it is your duty to live with virtue, fully and completely." Age, to a Stoic, is not a reason to stop. It's a reminder to start living deeper. And yet so many of us use age as an excuse to play small. We say, it's too late to change careers. It's too late to travel. It's too late to love again. But the intelligent man knows, too late is just another way of saying, I am scared to begin. The truth is, you are never too old to dream, to learn, or to begin again. Because passion doesn't age, only your excuses do. Age brings you something youth never could: perspective, patience, and wisdom. It gives you clarity about what truly matters and what doesn't. And that clarity is power. So instead of asking, "Am I too old?" start asking, "What can I do now with everything I've learned?" That's what separates the man who fades away from the man who keeps evolving. Remember, your life is not defined by how many years you've lived, but by how much life you bring into your years. Every day you wake up is another invitation to begin again, no matter your age. Because as long as you're still breathing, it's never too late to become who you were meant to be. 6. I'll do it later. There's one sentence that has quietly buried more dreams, goals, and good intentions than failure ever has. It sounds innocent, even responsible, but it's deadly. I'll do it later. We've all said it. I'll call them later. I'll start that project later. I'll chase my dream when things calm down. But here's the truth. Later is a trap. Because later is where our best intentions go to die. I once read a story about a man named Thomas. He was always busy, always chasing something more important. He kept saying, "I'll visit my father next week." But next week became next month, and next month never came. By the time Thomas finally cleared his schedule, his father was gone. And in that silence, he learned one of life's harshest lessons. Later is not guaranteed. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." The Stoics understood something that most people today refuse to face. Time isn't promised. Every moment you delay, you trade a piece of your life for a promise that may never come. And yet, we keep postponing the things that matter most. We say we'll change when the timing is right, start when we have more money, call when we're less tired, love when it feels safer. But the perfect moment doesn't exist. There's only now. Every wise person I've ever met shared one thing in common. They act before they feel ready. They don't wait for inspiration. They create it through movement. Because life rewards those who step forward, not those who keep planning to. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, "I'll start tomorrow"? And how many tomorrows have already passed? The difference between a man who lives fully and one who merely dreams is that one takes action while the other waits for permission. You can't build a meaningful life on intentions alone. Intentions are ideas, but action is transformation. Action is where life begins. Every goal, every change, every breakthrough you've ever imagined starts with a single imperfect step now. So if there's something you've been putting off, a call, a goal, a decision, stop waiting. Stop telling yourself there will be a better time. Because there won't be. There's only this moment, and it's slipping away as you think. The intelligent man doesn't say, "I'll do it later." He says, "I'll do it now," because later might never come. 7. That's just how I am. Have you ever heard someone say, "That's just how I am"? Maybe you've said it yourself. It's a phrase that sounds harmless, even self-aware. But beneath it lies one of the most dangerous forms of surrender, the decision to stop growing. When a man says, "That's just how I am," what he really means is, "I don't want to try anymore." It's not identity, it's resignation. It's the moment he trades growth for comfort, responsibility for excuse. Think about it. Someone with a temper says, "I'm just short-fused. That's who I am." Someone afraid of intimacy says, "I'm just not the emotional type." But the truth is, those aren't unchangeable traits. They're walls we build to avoid facing the harder truth. That change takes effort, and effort exposes our weaknesses. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once wrote, "It's not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." Meaning, it's not life that defines us, it's the way we choose to respond. The Stoics believed that character isn't something you are born with. It is something you build. Through discipline, through conscious repetition, through small, consistent choices that reshape who you are. And yes, change is uncomfortable. It's messy. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. But every step you take towards self-mastery, every time you choose awareness over impulse, you reclaim a piece of your power. Look at history. Every man who became great from Marcus Aurelius to Nelson Mandela, had flaws, tempers, fears, and failures. But they refused to say, "That's just how I am." Instead, they said, "This is who I am now, and this is who I'm becoming." The difference between a man who evolves and one who stagnates is not talent. It is willingness. Willingness to change. Willingness to challenge your habits, your ego, your story. So ask yourself, are you living as a fixed version of your past, or are you a work in progress? Because when you tell yourself, "That's just how I am," you close the door to your future. But when you say, "I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm working on it," you open that door wide to possibility, to purpose, to freedom. The intelligent man doesn't cling to his flaws as identity. He transforms them into his training ground, because true strength isn't in staying the same. It's in choosing to become better every single day. You see, every man, no matter how strong, how experienced, or how wise, has said one of these phrases at some point in his life. "I'll do it later. That's just how I am. It's not my fault." We've all been there. But what separates an intelligent man from the rest is that he recognizes it and decides to change. Because true wisdom isn't about being flawless. It's about being aware. It's about catching yourself in those moments of weakness, pride, or fear, and choosing a better response next time. That's where growth begins. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be perfect. What matters is that you're moving, even if it's slow, even if it's messy, towards something greater than who you were yesterday. That movement itself is the definition of wisdom. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps one of the wisest men who ever lived, wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." It's not about thinking endlessly about change. It's about living it. Every word you speak, every choice you make, every time you silence that inner excuse, you're shaping your character. And here's the truth. The real battle isn't against the world. It's against the part of you that wants to stay comfortable, that wants to repeat the same old story, the one that says, "I'm fine as I am." But deep down, you know you're meant for more. So, starting today, leave behind those phrases that hold you back, the ones that limit your potential, your courage, your peace. Stop saying, "I'll do it later." Stop saying, "That's just how I am." Stop saying, "I don't need help." Instead say, "I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm working on becoming the best version of myself." Because that's what wisdom truly is, not a destination, but a daily choice. A decision to rise, reflect, and rebuild. So, if this message spoke to you, share it. Because somewhere out there, another man needs to hear this too. And if you're ready to keep growing, to live more consciously, more purposefully, and more powerfully, subscribe to this channel. Join us, a community of men who choose to evolve, one mindful day at a time. Remember, wisdom isn't about where you are right now. It's about the direction you're moving. And today, you just took another step forward. If this video gave you something valuable, a thought, a spark, or a new way to see yourself, share it with someone who might need it today. And if you're ready to keep growing, to live each day with more awareness, wisdom, and calm, then hit subscribe and join this community of mindful men. Every video here is a reminder. Wisdom isn't a destination. It is a daily choice.